Alright, what's up YouTube? I am back here with a combo-ish video of my regional top 5 place deck list. Quite a few people have been asking for this. The problem is with Tearlaments, you can't just make a combo video because obviously your whole board depends on what you mill, what you see, your opening hand. There's no just standard, oh, I open these two cards like Vanadium or something, I get to do this whole board, something along those lines. So, well, let's just do test hands like we kind of did for the Synchro build and see what we can come up with. Same thing here. We will do our little shuffle up. And then we're going to use the dice to take off the top cards of the deck to kind of prove, or hopefully prove, that none of this is staged or cheating or set hands up or anything like that. So we may brick. If we do, oh well, you'll kind of see that, especially when you're playing kind of a deck like this. So let's roll our dice. Taking 3 from the top, putting them right on the bottom. Let's see what we get for our opening hand. Not great off the start. We got Meta Noise, Sulliek, Beast, Grief, and King of the Swamp. So with this hand, it's not awful. There's a couple routes we can go. I'm gonna flip this hand around. Make sure you check the deck profile out beforehand so we can kind of play a little game along with this. Look at this hand, take a minute, pause the video. Tell me what you would start with up until the non-deterministic points and where you would go with it, and then unpause the video and we can kind of go through it together and see what my line of thinking is and kind of see how we differ. If you find a better line than I do, go ahead and throw it in the comments of the video and we can kind of go from there, and then maybe do a second one of these and kind of just grow and learn off of each other. All right, let's get into it. So it's hard to tell what your opponent has, especially nowadays. A lot of people are on books, less hand traps because they're not good against Unchained. Let's just go through it like we're not dealing with the hand traps, and then at some point we can kind of try and work that in. But we'll just pitch our King of the Swamp right away, standard. We want that poly in hand. And now with this hand, there wasn't much else you could do besides go into your Tearlaments Grief. There's a couple schools of thought that you can do here with this. We can go into one of our girls Infusion summon right away, or we can bring out Rhino Heart. And we can go Rhino Heart, dump, fuse, and then go off from there. With having the Sulliek in hand, I kind of like the idea of going Rhino Heart, just because then I also get to pitch this Beast from my hand if I would like, instead of having to go Fusion. Because if you grab one of the girls, you can go Fuse 2 off, make your app clone, or excuse me, your Grand Guganol, send the app clone, search Schism, and then off the Schism discard the Sulliek, and then from the Sulliek you'll search your Rhino Heart, or you can search your Sharon off of there, but then you're also banking on that you're going to hit your Rhino Heart at a later time. And you don't have a lot of mills with this hand, so I almost like the idea of I can set up a fusion play plus another fusion play later. So let's go ahead and let's do that then. So we'll go Grief. And a reminder, you can off of Grief send the same attribute you summon. So that's not a worry. You just don't get the effect on summon because it gets sent right away. Next we'll do Rhino Heart effect. I'll discard the Sulliek to special summon back. New chain links. Prioritize what you want. Both can get ashed, so I guess it doesn't really matter at this point. We'll go chain link 1, chain link 2. Let's go ahead and add our Shiren, and then send off Rhino. It's up to you what you send off of this. I normally prioritize sending Merly because she realistically is the worst one out of this build because we don't have access to Sprint, and this is just the worst name to see in your hand compared to Havness being a hand trap. So that is something I did throughout the regional, is just prioritize which names I sent first. Merle was always the dead one. Sheeran's the one that you want to protect the most, and then go from there. All right. So this still just leaves us kind of in an awkward spot because the Merle is going to fuse, and we do want to go into our Grand Guignol. So let's go. Let's still just do that. The only difference is that we don't have a great pitch, so we're probably going to end up pitching this polymerization. We can just go for a normal fusion here and go into like a grapha if we don't want to set up the schism. We got to kind of think about what our plays are after that. So if we go into a grapha, we summon this, we're going to get a random draw. So we're going to have these cards in hand, this on field, and then a grapha here and a mill 3. So worst case scenario, these can go into a I am blanking this evening here. We can go into a Time Thief Redoer. So that way we have a grapha negate, and then as soon as we use our grapha negate, we can go into a Dragostapelia. That just doesn't seem like a good end board, in my opinion, especially in today's. People can play around 2 interrupts, and that also means that our meta noise isn't going to be live necessarily. So I think we're going to go the schism route. So let's go ahead and get back to where we were. So we're going to summon our Grand Guignol. I usually just throw them up here. The only reason you're going to get rid of this is to go into a cross sheet play. And your cross sheet play, 9 times out of 10, you are going to be using this Grand Guignol just because it is. If you want to, you can always summon it here. Your main zones that you always want to keep free or have a fusion in is these 3. I generally try and keep the middle zone clear and have that so I can play in both, especially when I'm going first. And then I can put both my fusions on the kind of the outer zones, and then my inner zone is to trigger my cross sheet. So that's something to keep aware of. We'll play down here just because I don't think we're going to have an issue with space. Definitely could run into an issue with space later on, but most of the other fusion you don't want to use. So we will send that app clone effect. Now, this grabs our schism. Like I said, I'm going to prioritize the Sheeran. I could discard this beast and try and get lucky and see if we can hit another draw, but that's just not worth it in my opinion. This poly isn't going to do anything really this turn, so let's go ahead and just get rid of that. That's the nice thing also about playing King of the Swamp and having the poly, because it does act as another card in hand just to discard. So now let's go ahead and see what we get off of this. This will kind of determine on where our turn is going to end here. So a special summon Sheeran, discarding the beast. Sheeran will resolve. We hit the Agido and we hit a Hell Shadal. That's crazy. So now we have 3 effects that we're going to use. One thing to note, especially when you're learning this deck, one thing I always did, separate your triggered effects that you can do this turn versus the effects or just random cards in your graveyard. These cards don't matter. Leave them off to the side. Bring these out and make it nice and clear for your opponent what you are going to do. If they are confused why these are sitting out, throw them back in your graveyard and then kind of point it out as well. I don't think anyone called me out or had an issue with me kind of setting them out. As long as you're making it clear where everything is and that you're not getting kind of confused in the game state. Now let's see, what do we want to protect? I kind of want to get this random mill out of the way first. I like getting my random mills out and then drawing. So I think we're going to go like this. Yeah, let's go like this. So we'll chain link 1, 2, 3. No matter what I've done this turn, I will always try and chain block the Agido. Some people try and hold their hand traps for this point. Like if they only have 1 ash, they'll try and stall for this point. So just a heads up on that. One thing I always do. So we are going to mill 3 off of the Hell Shadal. If you don't know what the Hell Shadal does, you mill equal to the number of attributes on the field. It's on the field, so it can include your opponents. We already used Celiac, so that was kind of a whiff there. Let's both mill 5. All right, so we're going to have 1 effect that comes off of that mill. We already used the Rhino Hearts, so that is not a great mill either. And lastly, let's draw off this beast. We drew a Tearlaments Cache. Awesome. So now in a new chain, we have a Haveness effect. Our graveyard is not set up very well. We do have the beast and we do have the Hell Shadal, so we know that this Shaddoll Schism is fine. So either we can go into a Mud Dragon if we'd like. Let's go Mud Dragon here because we did mill a Diviner. So we can make a Baron play this turn. So let's go with that. We don't have to worry about the other Dark. This isn't going to get any value since we aren't maining the... what the heck is it? The Shaddoll Fusion in the main deck. So this is going to be the easiest banish that you're always going to banish off of Schism. So it's great to just leave that in there, and Beast is going to be a draw later on. So we have used Havness and now Merly. Put those over there, and we will get out our King of the Swamp here. So always putting him in the farthest zone. This middle zone I know is going to be cleared up because I'm going to be getting rid of stuff here shortly. So now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to activate the Tearlament Cache. This is kind of where I always ended up getting to, usually to like one of the two fusions, and then having this end board of like these 3-4-ish monsters. You always want to be using your Tearlament Cache and your Grand Guganol to go into your cross sheet plays. These two are going to make your Redoer get your other plays off, and then have your Redoer start bouncing back and disrupting your opponent. So this is why you need to be using your Kashtira. It gets kind of awkward because you have to use a lot of your millers before you even make your cross sheep, so it can make your plays really awkward. But let's go Tearlament Kashtira. Looking through our graveyard real quick, we are noticing we have a Shuffler, we have a Diviner. We haven't seen our second Shuffler. We've seen our Grief. We're still going to banish a Trap because I do shuffle back Grief quite a bit just to get this Trap back into rotation. We've seen all 3 of our Rhino Hearts, so that's another thing to keep in mind. So we'll banish the Celiac, special summon. Off of this, the only thing we really want to see right now is either something to kind of replenish our hand, which there isn't really anything else now that the Meta Noise is already in our hand. We can still hit a Tearlament Cache to mill 2, or we want to hit a King of the Swamp. We really want to hit a King of the Swamp if we can get lucky. Scream, unfortunately, is dead. Keldo, dead. Kelbeck. This was not a great mill. You wanted one of these left in the deck for the other Diviner, so we're going to have to burn one of our Shufflers this turn, but that's fine. Let's go ahead and hit off of Kelbeck and see if we can get a King of the Swamp. If we hit Merly, not a big deal. We can always go into Kaleido Heart as well. And if we do hit Trivy Karma in this turn, we can go into Kaleido Heart and then get a trap that way by shuffling stuff back, or shuffling back Grief and then sending it. So let's see if we get anything here. We do mill 2 King of the Swamp, so that's perfect. No triggered effects. Like I said, we only run the 3 traps. We've seen all 3. 2 Celiac there, a Celiac in our graveyard, and then also the Meta Noise in our hand. But we did hit King of the Swamp, so we're fine there. Next play, let's go ahead and link these guys off into our cross sheet. Let's just put it over here. I don't think we're going to have to use the Meta Noise this turn. We definitely, or I mean the effect of, I keep forgetting his name, Time Thief Redoer. Normally you can make this play if you don't hit one off of this, because you can always, off of the summon, use that effect and just go into any fusion, bring back the Diviner, or go into a Mud Dragon, bring back the Diviner, and then still go into your Baron that way. But we get kind of lucky because we have it all here. So we go into Redoer, trigger our cross sheep. On the trigger of our cross sheep, targeting your Diviner is when you have to use a Miller. Because if this gets summoned and you don't have any legal targets, you can't activate her effect. So we will go ahead and chain our Keldo. So we are going to put back Kelbeck, Agito, because those are going to be our best hits, and then a Medora. So what we're going to end up doing off of this is, this is going to reset our Millers back in the deck, and then we're going to send Medora off of the Diviner. So I'm just going to leave this out for simplicity effect. This is nice as well when you're doing this, because this is going to get the fusion material that you use off of the bottom of the deck and get it back into rotation. So let's shuffle this up. Like I said, so we have these 2 in hand. This gets summoned. This effect will send our Medora that we just shuffled back in, but that will give us our Herald level 6. One thing you could do as well is if you did hit off of that, and you don't want to use a shuffler, which is something I definitely should have just done there. Now thinking back on it, you can always make better plays, and remember that. One thing we could have done is not shuffle back, kept this in Medora. Grand Guganol is a level 8, so if I would have just went with the Mud Dragon and the Tearlament Cache, I could have made the Cross Sheep over here, pointing to the Grand Guganol, just brought this back, not use the shuffler, and then synchroed. It doesn't fully matter in this point. Unfortunately, I did burn a shuffler, but at the same time, I'm getting the millers back in deck, so my next mills are going to be crazy, especially for how low the deck is. So we're going to keep it how it is, keep how our play did. I do like having the millers in the deck, especially when we're going to have a chance to mill on our opponent's turn here. All right, we will shuffle all this up. Let's do a cut of 2, 1, 2, and put those on bottom. Next, do the good old-fashioned play. It's up to you. I like to put the Baron here because I know the only way I'm actually going to be getting a fusion on field is by triggering this Redoer at this point with having these two in hand. You could leave it free if you think this Schism is going to summon anything other than Winda, but this is where I'll put this. So with the Synchro, you get the 700 attack boost, which matters a bunch because it says to all monsters you control, not currently control, which is huge. So we'll set our Schism and set our Meta Noise. So on our opponent's turn, we have a fusion effect. If you get scared, you can always tag this out in the standby phase as well to kind of play around talents. We have 2 King of the Swamps in the graveyard, which is huge. We have the Hellshadal set up. We have Sulliek, we have the Meta Noise set, and then we also have the double Rhino Heart, so we can get quite a bit of fusions off. We didn't end up with the actual planet, which is best case scenario, but this is still a super strong board. This interrupts 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have 5 technical interrupts. So let's play through our opponent's turn. We'll get, say, a monster off of this, so that way we're not pretending that we're crazy broken. Baron, this is to negate Book of Moons and Eclipses only. If you have to, this can also negate a Talents take, something along those lines. That's what this is here for. Do not use this on monster effects. That's why you have all of this stuff, other stuff set up. This is for those books, because the books are actually kind of annoying in this matchup, and you need to plan out your negates properly. Graphic can't negate those books. Obviously, if you've been playing this deck, you know that, but you have very limited answers to the actual Book of Moons besides continuing to try to play through them. So that's why Baron is very important in this version, to stop the books, to keep this alive. A lot of the times I will play Protect the Towers because it just means you win the game. So in your opponent's turn, we'll try and spike a spell or a trap and then kind of see what we want to do with the Redoer. Say we hit a monster. Let's go ahead and use this right away. So we will use the effect of Redoer on resolution, detaching the Shiren, banishing the Redoer Shiren effect in the new chain. Let's go Shiren plus King of the Swamp. So these two will go to the bottom of the deck. We will go ahead and get out our Rukalos. Cross Sheep will then trigger. Cross Sheep will go ahead and bring back the Rhino Heart. Rhino Heart then effect will go ahead and dump one of the other girls. So we then go into a Merly, obviously, because like I said, our deck, when you're kind of looking through it, you can kind of see how juiced it is if you think you're going to hit, because you can always bring back Diviner in this spot if you need to hit something. Like say we didn't have another King of the Swamp in our graveyard. You're going to want to try and go for those high rolly plays at that point. Sometimes while you're playing the deck, you want to be as consistent as possible, or sometimes you need to just be able to realize, hey, I need to get lucky, and I need to get set myself up for getting lucky. Always manage your percentage points. Every little percentage point matters. We shuffled. We'll roll 1, 2, 3, even though we're probably going back in there this turn. Let's go Merly. And then this is where you kind of want to decide what your end board looks like. We have a Baron, we have a Rukalos. Our board's pretty strong. Looking at our extra deck, we don't have a lot left to go into. That would be great here. The only thing I'm worried about at this point is I'm playing against Kashira. Anytime I'm playing, I always pretend I'm playing against Kashira, and I kind of want to set myself up the best. So we have the answer to the book. So just in case they kind of go crazy with just their normal summon and inherent, and I don't want to flip this just because if they go Book of Moon on Baron, I just let it go face down and then they go Eclipse. I don't want to use the Schism right away and burn it. So I want to hold this for as long as possible. So we're going to go Dragos Tapelia. This is going to give us the most coverage, and it's going to keep our the rest of our stuff safe from just normal monster effects on the grave. Always put back your Mud Dragon. That will come up later on usually. And now this is your end board. So we have a live Meta Noise. We have 2 Tearlament cards, so they can't just get rid of those. We have our Schism set. We can stop a Book of Moon, Book of Eclipse on a key piece of interaction. And then we still have 2 interactions here. So we still have 5 interactions while playing in your opponent's standby phase, let alone a soft interaction being the Medora. So as soon as your opponent does any sort of thing to activate the special summon, you need to decide whether you're using their Kalos or not. If you can let it go through, let them play a little bit. Let them use some resources. Don't let them gain advantage off of it, but if you know the Unchained player is activating cards and trying to pop cards, like if they set a monster, there's no point to try and do anything. You can let them pop the monster even, and then on the monster's effect to summon, they'll have 1/2000 body, which doesn't even get over anything besides Cross Sheep. We don't care, because they summon, say, the Red Dog, and then they're using the effect of the monster or whatever they popped in the graveyard to summon. On that, then you can go ahead and flip this Schism. The Schism will always banish, like I said, the App Cologne, and then you can banish, usually I banish the Hell Shadal. If I have the Beast, if I have both in the graveyard, Hell Shadal and Beast, always banish the Hell Shadal. The draw is way more important. We'll banish those, and we'll go into our window. So in the Unchained matchup, as soon as they pop, summon, and then summon one from deck, now they're locked under window. And if they summon to dark, you can go ahead and send it. This is a little bit stronger when you have a, say, the planet up, or maybe a scream to lower their attack. If they summon 3000, we have the Book of Moon, so that's perfect. We want to try and get them to go to battle phase. If they go to battle phase, that means they're not killing us this turn as well. So then we can always Book a Moon and then just send something dead. But this is kind of the typical end board that I was going for, and what you end on a lot. Let's go ahead and get into another one, because now we're just getting into too many hypotheticals on our opponent's turn, and we can't guarantee anything. So let's try and get in another test hand. When you're going through your plays, you want to give yourself the best percentage points. Obviously, you're rolling the dice a little bit when you're playing this deck, and you're trying to get somewhat lucky off of your mills. But if you don't set yourself up to have the better percentage points when you are the house, pretty much, in a gambling scenario, you're just bleeding money and bleeding those cards off the top of your deck, and your mills are going to be worse. All right. Give it a couple more shuffles here. Roll the dice. We're rolling off 4. Those go to the bottom. And let's see what we get for this hand. All right. Not a crazy hand, not a great hand, but will work. So once again, go ahead and pause the videos. Kind of see what you do up until you get to the point of where you're making or needing to mill off the top or anything along those lines. We got planets, Schism, Beast, and Rhino Hearts. All right, let's get into it. This hand, like I said, is not great. It's not strong by any means, and we're gonna have to get a little lucky, but with any luck, we will get there. There is quite a few plays that we can still do even with just this hand, so let's go ahead and start with our good old Rhino Heart Mill 2. Reinhardt, send our Tear Cache. One thing you can do here, thinking about this hand, you can activate Planet and go get your Shiren. And then at that point, go Shiren, send Beast. I like to keep my tier names in deck as much as possible. Obviously, if I can spike them and spike like a King of the Swamp, that's even better. One thing you could have done here as well is if you wanted off the planet to go grab a Tear Cache. So in response to this Tear Cache fact, activate the Tear Cache. So that way you're going to have an extra mill when you activate, or if you hit one of the 3 names. That way you can mill some more and try and hit more. Something to kind of think about there. Thinking about it just a little bit more, I think I'm going to save this for Shiren, because worst case scenario, I can set up a wind on my opponent's turn and hope that's enough. And then this gives me the most chance to see the most cards out of my deck as well. So let's mill 1, mill 2, perfect. Scream. We will go ahead and search a Sulliek. And then let's go ahead and still try and bait an Ash. Let's hit this Trivy Karma. They don't Ash that. They're maybe waiting for the field spell. Like I said, we're just going to pretend they don't have it while we're going through these. This Trivy Karma is going to grab our Scream. I want to mill. My graveyard's not set up, not established at all, so that's what we're going to focus on. Planet, grab Shiren. And then we will give this a good shuffle, and we will go ahead and see if we can get lucky again with our mills. We are taking 3 off the top. All right, we're all shuffled up. We're ready to go. Let's see if we can get lucky here. Sorry, trying to keep everything in camera frame. So we will activate our Scream, activate our Shiren, discarding this. This is always going to get used for material if we go into our cross sheet play, so this can actually go into our center. This will never stay on the field. Remember, this all activates, effects, and then resolves. So we're going to mill 3 first. And then we're going to set up a new chain link. So we milled Merly, King of the Swamp, Book of Moon. So I'm going to pull out everything that I can activate this turn out of my graveyard. We have Scream, Merly, Beast. Obviously, we want to get all the randomization out first before we activate and see what we want to do with this Merly. So we will go Merly 1, Scream 2, Beast 3. You can always switch this around as if you want to draw before milling. Doesn't really matter to me, so we'll resolve it how it was. So we're Beast with number 3, so we'll draw. We drew Diviner. That kind of sucks. We used our mill already. This does mean that this is in our hand and we have access guarantee to this because we already have the Schism. So what we can do is add Hell Shaddoll and then discard the Diviner off of this fusion. Let's see what we hit off of the Scream first before we get too much in the weeds. Wow, 2 King of the Swamps and Medora. That's perfect. That's exactly what we want to see. We have fusion material set up for days in here. Let's go ahead and let's make, just double checking here. I think we do want to kind of go that route. Let's see. We can go Grand Guganol, discard the Diviner if we'd like. Grand Guganol, then I think we don't have enough materials for that. We would have to use one of these 2. When we fuse this off, we can use the pop on the Shiren, and if we think we're going to have to use this Rhinoheart as material. With this much material, I kind of like saving that though. And we don't actually have access to, I guess we have the Beast here, but we have to use that. This gets kind of into an awkward line. I don't think we're going to go the Grand Guganol line since we already have access to Beast. The only downside is that we won't have access to, unless we do hit the, sorry, just trying to think this through here. We could go Grand Guganol and discard the Sulliek. That's not the worse because then that gets us into another tier cache. So tier cache then gets us that. Let's just go with my original thought here. So we're gonna go these two into our Grand Guignol. We already know we're gonna be using this for cross sheep, so we'll throw him up there. We will use this Grand Guignol effect. Or I guess in this instance, we have to think about our chain link. So Grand Guignol is gonna be 1. Do I want to pop this Shiren is the next question I have to ask myself. I think I do. As much as I kind of wanted to save it. Because if I don't use it here, don't use the pop, send, go into this, fusion that away. I don't get into my cross sheep parry, and then I'm weaker to any Book of Moon effect, which I'm not a huge fan of. So I think I am going to pop this here. So Chainlink 1 is the Grand Guignol, Chainlink 2 Shiren. This deck, you do have to kind of think about your plays, so don't slow play it, but give yourself the option to kind of think through everything. So what we're doing here is we are sending App Clone. App Clone effect is going to be Chainlink 2, so it's going to be Shiren, Chainlink 1, Chainlink 2, App Clone. So we are going to go ahead and add our Hellshadal. This is nice because if you are playing against any sort of Kashtira, or if they summon Fenrir right away, you don't have to go Winda. You can go into your Shikanaga, and your Shikanaga then you can trigger your cross sheep and get your plays going that way. And then your Shikanaga is also going to be a interruption at this point. We'll discard our Herald. Next, our Sharon will activate. So we are just going to go into a generic fusion then at this point. We could go into a Mud Dragon, but that's not the greatest here. Let's see here, by banishing future materials listed from your field or graveyard, so can't use that from hand. I think we are going to have to get just a little lucky no matter what. So, like I said, worst case scenario, we will play on our opponent's turn as well, especially when we have the Sulliak. But since we have the screen set up and we have these two, we're not going to go for Grapha. We're going to go for our good old gal, Rukalos. This way we can guarantee that the screen can go off, this Sulliak is going to be live, and we'll have a little bit more protection with the Schism in order to keep playing. So let's go ahead. Man, I kind of goofed this up. Because like what I went through all of this talking, but how are we going to get the special summon to summon back the Diviner? This happens sometimes, especially when you're playing or when you're late at night. Let's just continue. I hope you guys caught that and you guys are roasting me in the comments for this. But this hand is still going to end up being pretty strong just because we are still going to go into our cross sheep. And this was kind of what I was going through with the deck profile as well. Worst case scenario, you can end still on this, and this is still a great end board. Let's think about how many interruptions we have here. We have a Winda potentially, or a Shikanaga with a discard. We have a Planet Pop, a Rukalos, and then we have either a guaranteed fusion. We can hit a Mill 5. We have a Shuffler with the pop, so we have 1, 2, 3. Let's count this as maybe a soft here, so maybe a half. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 negates. Not negates, but interactions with our opponent. Let's kind of play through it on our opponent's turn. Our opponent summons. You're always going to kind of let their first summon go through unless it is kind of nasty. You can always flip the Sulliak up if you want to go ahead and set up a negate with the Rukalos without having to send herself. Sending herself is great though, because when she does come back, she will trigger our cross sheet because she's special summoned. Let's go ahead and just say they summon, we're gonna mill 3. Meta Noise, Fenrir, triple tag. Perfect. Meta Noise effect, add back our tier cache. And then whenever you have a free second or even after resolution, you can activate this tier cache and get going, depending on what they summon, obviously. Let's go ahead and activate this to special. Always banish a trap. We haven't hit grief or anything. To summon back. New chain links. Chain link 1 cross sheet, chain link 2 tier cache. We have the tier cache. We have our schism set, and we have our Celiac set. Really depends on what they summoned, because we're going to have a guaranteed pop here. We can fuse into a shuffle back if we need to. Let's go with, just say they normal summons one of the Unchained guys and are getting ready to pop or something along those lines. It doesn't really matter. Or say they activated or normal summoned a Pearly, whatever. Normal summoned a Pearly, we'll let it go through. We did all of this. We will go chain link 1, chain link 2. Chain link 1 is going to be targeting our Rhino Heart, just so we can get that. And then we will go ahead and chain link 2, our tier cache, we'll mill 3. Rhino Heart, Poly, Fenrir, perfectly fine. We'll special summon back our Rhino Heart effect. Send our Merly. We will go ahead and activate Merly. And Merly then gets to go ahead and fuse into, at this point, it really depends. If you're playing against Pearly, obviously you're not going to go Grapha because they have a bunch of quick effects. They have a continuous set, doesn't matter, or isn't really going to stop you. You're probably going to go Dragostapelia. Even though it doesn't matter making level 1 stop, stopping the Pearl Lily is huge. I guess we'll just pretend we're playing against Pearly, but we're really scared of the triple tack. Maybe we milled it off of their mill 5 and we saw it, or we saw thrust and triple tack, so we're a little scared. So we'll go into our Grapha. Now, as soon as they activate, say like a quick play or something that special summons, especially with this hand, we will go activate our Schism. Schism will banish, summon out our window. And you saw I messed up turn 1 and I'm still putting up like a full board on my opponent's turn without actually having anything on my board. They had to deal with these 4 cards that they knew about that were face up, and then they still had to worry about all of this on the back end. And we didn't even hit that well off of our mills that were going to be that crazy. We were going to get the special summon back off of this no matter what, if we hit this or not. If we didn't hit off of that to get our trap back to bring out our Tearlaments cache, our board would be even better because we don't have to worry about this sitting here and taking up more room. We can go in through more plays. We could go on into our Kaleido Heart and then had a Celiac negate and then send the Kaleido Heart, or the Rukalos negate, send the Kaleido Heart bring itself back, make another fusion on our opponent's turn, and along with the Schism. So it's just, we have so many options in this board, and now under our window, we have not used our special summon. So Rukalos then can send the Tearlaments cache, and we can try and get lucky off of that and still get a fusion summon off. We just hit a Shyren off of this. So what does that mean? We get to go into any other fusion that we want. Okay, we'll put back Grand Guganol because it's not that bad of another thing to have in the extra deck, and the Shyren. So now we have, this is our end board. I still haven't even I just used my Rukalos. I technically haven't used my pop. I could have used the pop on the Perlily on the summon. I still even have a Celiac negate, so I still have 2 negates. I still have the Grapha negate after locking them under special summons. Granted, this doesn't play around Eclipse, but at that point, they had to use Eclipse on the summon of Winda and then put all of this face down. They have to still clear my board without doing anything. If they Zeus wipe me, I get so much recursion back. Say they did that. Say I didn't get my little fusion back. They went ahead. I still had this on board. They eclipsed me. Full eclipse, full board, whatever. We know we're going to hit off of this because we just did. Let's see. We don't know that yet, though. They Zeus wipe us. All of this, gone. New chain. We have 1, 2. These, if we want them. We don't have anything to discard, so technically we can't activate that. Remember, do not cheat with this card. Just because you have a Celiac, just because you have a Scream, things that can add from your deck to your hand so you know you're going to have one. You don't have one in your hand at that moment, so you cannot activate this effect. You have to have one in your hand at the time you would activate it. So we have all of these effects that are going to be going off after your opponent Zeus wipes. This can't be activated. So then I'll always set myself up to give myself the best chance to hit something live. A trap would be live. A monster would be live, so I don't want to search off of these first. Wyndham has the chance to activate this Shiren, or add the Scream, so this will be the last thing in our chain link, and Rukalis will summon back. So it will be something like this. This will add back the Schism. This will mill 2. We knew we were kind of getting lucky off the top. Doesn't matter. Say this was a different brick. Say this was a Talents, and this is somewhere in the deck still. I'm just trying to show you guys that it's not all luck-based. You do have to set yourself up to get lucky at some points, but at the end of the day, your deck choice matters so much in this, and versus the way you play. So we add that. If we think our opponent's going to continue going off, we can add the Shiren, so we have more plays on our opponent's turn. We already have the play in hand, so we know we get a play on our next turn. We still have the Rukalis negate if we want on our opponent's turn as well. If we want to just set up so that we know we get a play, even if they have the Ash for this, we can always just grab our Shiren, because we still have that Hell Shaddoll in hand that I mistakenly searched for. That's going to end up coming up. So at the end of it, they spent who knows how many resources. Let's say they went maybe -1 to wipe our board. We end up with 5 cards in hand and a Rukalis on board with a negate. This can still negate and send. So then we end up taking, say, 2 cards. They set up a basic board, whatever that may be. We draw a Foolish Burial. Like I said, we would have gotten lucky off the Shiren. You got to set yourself up to get lucky, especially when you order your chain links. But, oh my goodness, we drew the Foolish Burial. This is just crazy. Like, let's get through one more. I know I've been kind of rambling and just talking. Let's get through one more, and then we'll be done here. I know this is kind of getting into a long video anyway. Like I said, a few people were asking for this, so let's see if we can get them one more decent hand where I don't completely punt it. All right, how many are we taking off the top? We're taking 4. If you like this video, make sure you like and subscribe. We are getting real close to that 500 subscribers, only like 100 more away. All right. Next hands. This hand is not great. Let's go ahead and flip this around so you can see it. Take a little pause break, see what you would do, and then we'll kind of go through it. We have Tribute Karma, Celiac, Foolish Burial, Fenrir, and a Scream. All right. Going into what I would do. If you said Special Fenrir, you got it. Fenrir searching. Grabbing the one, the only Tier Cash. Next thing, I'm activating Scream. And then we're going to go ahead and activate our Foolish Burial. Foolish is going to send our Rhino Heart. Rhino Heart effect, send Celiac. New chain link 1 Rhino Heart, chain link 2 Celiac. I'm okay if the Celiac gets negated. I have multiple things I still want to do, even if this does get negated. Special summon, or... So in this scenario, remember about the ruling that I said you had to have a Tearlament card in your hand to activate. In this spot, this is something you need to know, and I wish this would have been in the first combo so more people would have seen it. Not a lot of people probably made it to this part. Shout out to you if you did. You're going to learn something that took me a little bit to realize with this card in particular. This card summons, then discards. You have a legal activation because I have a card in hand, so we're going to go Chain Link 1, Rhinoheart, Chain Link 2, Sulic, Chain Link 3. I'm going to activate this from hand. This will still resolve because I had a legal target in my hand, even though I won't on resolution. So it will resolve like this. We will discard or banish, special summon. I know this won't sit on my board, so I can put that in the middle position. Summon. So we went, or sorry, Chain Link 1, 2, 3. So then I should have searched before summoning. Now you kind of need to think about what are we searching off of this. I could search one of my names if I'd like, or I can set it up where I know I have a Tear Cache in my hand for next turn. If I don't know if I'm going to get lucky. I am going to be milling, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 this turn. I think I'm going to grab the Shiren. I think we're going to get lucky. We're going to be able to do some more plays here. I'm going to be able to discard this Trivy Karma, get some more effects. Yeah. And then summon the Rhinoheart. New chain links. Oh my god. I am so sorry. We need to chain this better. We need to order our chains in the proper order. I apologize, it is late, I am tired. When we set this chain up here, this was in hand, these are in the field. It needs to go like this. This needs to summon, and then you need to search. This is very important. Do not mess this up. If I just did it the way I just did, I would have to discard that Shiren I searched. So it needs to go chain link 1, 2, 3. I apologize. 1, 2, 3. Let's re-resolve. 1, 2. I don't have anything to discard. That's perfectly fine. I had the legal activation at the time. And then Scream will resolve, searching that Shiren. My goodness, my brain is not working. All right. So now we will shuffle up here. I'm going to go new chain, chain link 1, 2, 3. I know I want to send, my goodness. Chain link 1, 2, 3. I don't know what I want to send with this yet. It more than likely will be a Tearlament cache if I don't hit one. So we might as well wait and get the randomization out of the way first and then go with our guaranteed mill at that point. So we're going to mill 6, send with Rhino. We are putting the top 3 in the bottom. 2, 3. And we're milling 6. 3. This is banished. 1, 2, 3. And we hit a King of the Swamp, so we're good to go. So we're sending a name. New chain. Chain link 1 is going to be Merly. I always, just for safety's sake, I always put these at the bottom of the chain if necessary, unless something else comes up. We'll put everything that's not going to be activated in our graveyard. New chain just like this. Chain link 1, 2, 3. Doesn't really matter for that. If you want to, you can chain block like this. They're not going to be ashing this versus everything else you've done. So you're kind of safe to go. So we'll add the grief, or we'll add off grief, mill the 2, mill Poly and Kelbeck. We're just insane with it. And then we will go ahead and get our fusion. Send these to the bottom for our Grand Guganol. Same plays. We are getting low on board space because we did open the Fenrir. So this is going up here because I know I have fusion materials already. Or not fusion materials, you have link materials. New chain, Guganol 1, Kelbeck 2, Kelbeck mill. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Perfectly fine mills. We milled Diviner, Rhinoheart, Schism, King of the Swamp, and then Tear Cache. We're not going to have anything to activate. We already used Rhinoheart effect, and that was earlier. And then Great Guggenol is going to send. Go back through here, grab our app clone in a new chain, search. Oh, my apologies. I don't search, that stays on the bottom there because I milled the Schism. Schism goes to hand. Remember, this can add from graveyard, discard a Tribute Karma. Tribute Karma effect and a new chain. We will start off with that. We've only used Merly this turn, so we gotta keep that in mind. Pearl Rhino, add Havness, because we're gonna discard it off our Shiren to guarantee a fusion. Let's check our graveyard real quick before we do anything else. We know we're getting to this point. We have a Diviner. We can set up a Baron if we'd like. We have not hit any other of our names for our fusion. The one thing to note is you have to hit a Hellshadal or you have to hit a Beast in order to go through with your plays, of your Schism plays. So at that point, we are going to get a mill 5 off of this. But this app clone may just end up turning into a King of the Swamp because we can't guarantee that we're going to hit even if we mill another 8 cards here. Let's go ahead and just kind of go through our plays and see what we hit. We do have that King of the Swamp in there. That's looking really good. And we have a Rhino Heart. So worst case scenario, this can go into Kaleido if we want to grab like a trap or something. Or if we want to go ahead and like send a Meta Noise so that way we can get a Tear Cache into our hand, something along those lines. Just plays to kind of keep to think about. Before we activate our Shiren, do we want to set up a Cross Sheep? I think we do. So let's go ahead and set that up first. Cross Sheep, Shiren effect, discard, special, mill 3. You hit a Merly. We already used Merly, so that's perfectly fine. New chain. We will activate our Havness. Now we kind of got to start thinking about what our end board is going to look like. Let's see. We can go ahead and still bring that out. We have a fusion here if we want. Mill 5. Put both of the names on the bottom and search later. I think what we want to do here is we want to go for a Kaleido. Oops. Leave that in the graveyard for later. The reason I'm going for Kaleido is because I do like ending with a Tear Cache in hand. It can make sure we trigger a Cross Sheep on our opponent's turn. We are going to have the Rhino Heart in the graveyard because this is going to be sent off of the Time Thief Redoer. So this is just going to set us up. I'm not a huge fan of going Kaleido Heart turn 1 if possible because it seems to leave the field and get banished face down or get banished in some way. But Kaleido Heart is always great on your opponent's turn, even when you're doing random mills to hit an Aqua and spin back. New chain here. We're going to go Cross Sheep, grab Diviner. I'm not going to use the Planet Pop yet because I still know I have a fusion here that I'm going to be doing, so we can wait with that. We already hit all of our tier names, so one thing I'm going to do off of this is I'm not going to send a mill 5. We're just going to send a shuffler. There's not much we want to hit left here. So if you wanted to at the same time, you could have used the Kaleido Heart and just popped it. Right then and there. Doesn't fully matter. I think I still want to use that right away. Looking through our graveyard, just double checking. We will go ahead and set this up here for our Redoer. Thinking through our plays real quick. I think I want to set up the Baron and not worry about this Schism very much. Schism's not hugely important at this point, and I can try and spike it and get lucky later on. So at this point, you really have to be setting up for not playing Winda Control. So we are going to detach the Shiren. We are going to be going Shiren plus the app clone to go ahead and make King of the Swamp. At this point, we are going to use the effect, pop the Kaleido Heart. Kaleido Heart will special summon itself back, and we'll put it into a zone that the cross sheep is not pointing to. And go ahead and send our copy of Meta Noise. Meta Noise will go ahead and add back our tier cache. Actually, my gosh, leave this pointing to where the cross sheep is pointing. Because we have the tier cache, obviously we can go ahead and trigger it. My brain, like I said, it's just late at night, not thinking. This is gonna go into Barone. And then I'm still gonna set both of these because like I said, we can get lucky, we're milling 6. This is a crazy end board. Once again, let's count just our soft interrupts and our regular interrupts itself. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 with our Meta Noise. Schism, we are not going to count yet because we're not guaranteed it. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 interrupts with my opponent without even getting lucky off the scream or counting the cross sheep. With counting the cross sheep, because that is a guaranteed mill at this point, or a guaranteed hit because we do have the Rhino Heart on field, or we're going to be able to bring back the Rhino Heart, just means that we also get more guaranteed follow-up at that point. The only thing that does stink about this board itself is we are going to get clogged, because this is going to come back. If this doesn't hit a monster, it's going to just sit there and kind of be dead. That is something also that you can kind of consider when you're going through your plays. If you're going to be using the reader line, this does say field and graveyard, so this can be your dark if you need it to be as well, if you're going to be doing the fusion plays. But 9 times out of 10, I hit a monster off of this, and you can kind of wait for them to semi-break your board. Even then, if you just go Sulliek Effect Negate, send this, bring this back, you can go ahead and get your fusion play off that way, and then bring back off of the cross sheep here, and use this just as a dark to fuse off, or go into some more plays that way. This field, I feel like every time you set up your initial board, it looks so kind of like underwhelming, especially when your opponent's looking at it. They're like, okay, what do you have? A spin, maybe, you have a negate, you have a Fenrir, planet pop, maybe a scream, and then you start just flipping these traps and you just start winning games. The only close game I really had was against Cashteer, and it wasn't even because he was going Reinhardt. It's because games 2 and 3, he was sighting in triple Cosmic, and the Cosmics were putting in so much work. The back row in this matchup matters so much. These are not just one interaction, because you're always sending something to get more effects. Worst case scenario as well, Sulliek doesn't have to send a tier monster, so if your field is getting clogged, say you hit a spell off this you drew, you can activate the Sulliek, send this, free up some room so that way you can play some more. Special summon your tier cache, mill 6 cards, bring back your Rhino Heart, fusion off if you want. Just kind of play through it. This deck is insane, and I feel like it is going to get better. As long as you can dodge the shifter decks, you're good to play. If you're that scared of shifter decks, you can side heavy for them. You can side crossouts and side a shifter yourself. I just decided to play just the one called by, just because realistically you're only siding this in when you are going first, compared to cross out as well. You can only side them in when you're going first, because if they shift on their turn, you're just trying to playing on turn 3 as well. That was my scuffed combo tutorial combo. if you want more of these, let me know. We can definitely go ahead and try and get more on the channel. As far as this, like I said, it's really hard to put up a quote combo tutorial because this deck will never build the same board every time. It really depends on what you mill and what your deck looks like and how consistent your deck is. I play 5 non-engine slots and maybe 6 if you count the second Fenrir. But other than that, I built it so my mills are the best, and that's why I think you need to play the triple Rhinoheart, because that means your mills have the most optimal potential to go ahead and go off. It means playing the 3 traps isn't as bad because you have the chance to hit off Rhinoheart, and as soon as you mill the Rhinoheart with one of these traps in your hand, you pop off. You get to go into a bunch of different plays and continue on your going through. Worst case scenario, if you have this and Sulliek, you end up milling this and getting the Sulliek discard. This means you're milling 5 more cards because you can go ahead and send a tier cache off this and grab a tier cache. I mean, 5 mills is an Ishizu shuffler out of nowhere, along with materials on board. So if you found any better lines, if you have any ideas, suggestions, anything that you would like to see, put them in the comments down below. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and put this up. I'm going to go to bed. You guys have a great night. Peace out.